Although we all know that China is developing rapidly, but you don't really understand what kind of miracle has China created. What's so great about the Chinese? From $300 to $10,000 per capita. It took Britain 200 years, 120 years of America, 25 years in China, a few decades to walk the path of the West for 100 years. This is how many people understand the Chinese miracle. But it's wrong. Because of this statement, a lot of people think that China is a martial arts prodigy. God's gift is the strongest. I'm the only one who can do it. Much of our pride also comes from the speed of China. But we're missing the point. The bigger miracle behind China's speed. China didn't start out as a martial arts genius at all. He's a lousy loser with horribly bad bonds. In 1949, when the salute for the founding of the nation was fired, we have almost zero foreign exchange reserves in the treasury. Can't even afford to import sewing machine needles. GDP per capita is only $23. Bottom of the world. Value created by every Chinese. Only half a kitchen knife's worth of steel can be purchased. 90% of nationals live in little adobe houses. 209 kilograms of food per capita per year. That's less than a bowl of rice a day. Medical resources are almost nil. There are only 3,670 Western doctors in the country. One bed for every 50,000 people. Infant mortality rate exceeds 20%. Life expectancy is only 35 years. More energy poor than poor African countries. Per capita power generation in the three northeastern provinces is only 45 kWh, 1/18th the size of South Africa. Not even as good as Ghana in Africa. And that's taking the three eastern provinces, which were the most industrially advanced at the time. Compare it to Africa. Where's the supply equipment? It's a mishmash of weapons from 24 countries. Dependence on captured spare parts for repairs and maintenance. The Navy's main ship is a converted wooden-hulled fishing boat. The Air Force has only 17 cobbled-together aircraft. Not to mention the infrastructure. 70% of railroads destroyed by war. You can't even find an electric light in the countryside. Only 200 telephone exchanges nationwide. And at that time, there was only one Manhattan district in the United States. Tens of thousands. As for the industrial base, it's not even thin enough. National steel production was only 158,000 tons. Let's not even talk about the United States. Compare it to India. People are 2.5 times more likely to take out a fraction of what we do. National blindness rate exceeds 80. Soviet experts used to say, this basis, we can't even do industrialized arithmetic. The United States at the time, 1.5 cars per people. And we've got 0.07 bikes for every 10 people. Not to mention cars and airplanes. At the time, Time magazines, even a mean comment would be, qualified sewing machine needles. It would take this country 100 years to build one. And Western journalists mocking us as a nation. Even a nail needs to be imported. This is the foundation of our true roots. Scrappy, 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 scrappy. Even India has steel mills left by the British. The railroad network, and we're the ones who don't even have a hair on our heads. Only post-war ruins. Only old mountains that need to be cleaned up from scratch. What about historian Huang Renyu? It was described this way. This country needs to be built from the negative. This is the real China at that time. If you could travel back to 1949 and tell the world, this one is not starved. China can feed 500 million people. In the future, 1.4 billion people will be fed on 9% of the arable land. And mountains of rice and flour in Chinese supermarkets. Young people are even starting to pick and choose. China, which can't even make nails. In the future, 70% of the world's squares will be engraved with Chinese characters. We'll produce 70% of the world's smartphones. 80% air conditioning, 90% laptops. No one in the world in terms of total manufacturing value. And more than the second through 10th places combined. This China was bombed into scorched earth by the Japanese. In the future, high-speed rail will be able to circle the earth. Let's make eating Cantonese cuisine with 5 different kinds of noodles a daily routine. Nearly 5 million 5G base stations worldwide. China to have sole possession of 2.9 million global fiber optic cables. China will account for half of the demand. Even Tibet's herders can use Vivek to broadcast live grazing. This arithmetic problem, which is considered to be even industrialized. China that can't even do it. Number of engineers trained per year in the future. It'll be more than the daily total. When graduates of India's top institutions, When you're scrambling to Silicon Valley, China's space team gets softer and softer the more it's dumped on. The average age of engineers is only 33 years old. This one was looted by the 8 power life forces. China with wooden boats against warships. In the future, we'll have Dongfeng 41 with a global range. There's gonna be a dual carrier fleet cruising the South China Sea. There's gonna be a Sarah 50 in the Pacific. Unstoppable. It's the kind of thing that would make even the United States of America say, to make peace with China, he can mediate a 1,000-year feud in the Middle East on his own. You can sit in the United Nations and rock the house. I've been able to make a name for myself on the international stage. Then there's no doubt about it. Everyone must think you're out of your mind. I'll even make a mockery of you. I'd rather believe in the 21st century. The sun comes out of the west. I prefer to believe that the 21st century will be the end of the world. So, everybody, if you get away from China's pathetic waste of space, you're going to have a problem. To see the speed of China in these decades, you see it, you feel it. It will be just the tip of the iceberg, the light of the fire. It only touches on the greatness of the Chinese people. And now, the West likes to use the demographic dividend latecomer advantage to summarize the success of the Chinese. The barbarians don't know the inferiority of the Chinese. If that's all there is to it, India's population is already bigger than China's. India also has the advantage of latecomers. Why? Half the people in India still don't have access to clean water. There's 230 million people who don't have access to electricity. What is the real greatness for us Chinese? It was during the Battle of Daqing. Oil worker Wang Jingxi led drilling team 1205 in the middle of nowhere at minus 30 degrees Celsius level, moving 60 tons of equipment by hand and shoulder, flesh and blood against the weight of steel. It's the oil man without a crane. Jump into the mud pool and mix it with your body. It's 30 degrees Celsius. Serious injuries and broken fingers are becoming the norm, but the workers are still screaming that they'd rather live 20 years less. I'm going to take the big oil field if I have to, and this spirit, in each of the Chinese forefathers of that generation, shine on the 1964, behind the shocking explosion in Laos. No, 100,000 men and women in the Sea of Death, using an abacus to calculate the data for the atomic bomb. Scientist Wang Jianchang alias Wang Jie, 17 years in hiding. Workers sickened by nuclear radiation. I left a note to bury my ashes at the test site. Watch the next generation become the third line of defense against the nuclear threat. Behind the shock and awe, it's 4 million people going into the mountains incognito. When Panjihua Iron and Steel Base was built, workers picking up soil with a stretcher. Zhenjiang walks an average of 50 kilometers a day to transport building materials labor. Behind the Tianhui flag, Canal, it's 300,000 peasants with twine around their waists, with a hammer and a shovel, cutting 1,005 kilometers of aqueducts through the Taihang walls. 81 builders fell off a cliff and died. But no one flinched. Eventually, the Zhang River will be diverted. Let the county's grain production soar. What do we have to work with for decades? I've traveled 100 years in the West. He's a Daqing worker. Took 3 years to go the way of 80 years of American oil. It's the Lobo scientists. It took 5 years to complete the 10-year path of the USSR true nuclear weapons. It was built by 4 million people deep in the mountains. 1,001 military fortresses were picked up with a flat burden. It's 300,000 peasants cutting through a mountain wall. 81 people fell off a cliff in exchange for 1,000 miles of heavenly water. It's 1.4 billion people in one place. Gasp, i.e. breathe out. It's one generation eating up the suffering of 3 generations. And this spirit, this greatness, it's still being passed on from generation to generation. Looking back at 1949, Nanjing, Shimanan Pier, Minshin Company ship carrying the last shipment of Republic of China gold. When sailing to Taiwan, no one could have predicted. See the mainland in 70 years, becoming the world's second largest economy. What about this miracle? No magic. There are some who are. It's just the skin of the ant steel furnace foreman burned by the steel spatter. Bolt holes on the terraces of Daqing. Ye Wu small commodity market lit up at $4. When British scholar Martin Chalk lamented, when China offers a new possibility of modernity, he touched it. Perhaps the simplest philosophy of this people. All the wonders that fate has to offer. The price of struggle is marked down in the years of suffering. In Nujian, Yunnan, thrilling scene of Lisui village crossing the river by zipline. Cross-river bridges that have been replaced by Fibit base station coverage. On the edge of the Taklamakan Desert, lithium biobearum planted under photovoltaic panel arrays, shading the dawn of green power agriculture. Chinese civilization is always reborn in desperate times, because he believes there is no mountain higher than man. There is no path longer than a foot.